Upfront and Outspoken with Bob Williams. If you love the Constitution,
man is not free unless government is limited.
if you love freedom,
As government expands, liberty contracts.
if you believe in personal responsibility, if you believe America is still the greatest nation on earth, then get ready for an experience you'll never forget. This is Upfront and Outspoken. Here's your host, Bob Williams.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
And welcome back. This is Upfront Outspoken. Of course, I'm your host, Bob Williams. You know, I love my interns, but I love to hate them as well because I had a hustle. During the news break, I had a hustle. My guest is on the phone. Her name is Deborah Breuner. She is an author of, I'm going to let her explain it to you a little bit more because, like I said, my interns, to be honest with you, fudged up. I can't use the F word or I'm going to get a fine from the FCC. But Deborah Breuner is on the phone with me. Deborah, tell me a little bit about your book, if you would, please.
Well, good morning, Bob. Yes, my book is called God's on Our Side, Sweetie, but the Devil Has Control. And it is titled that way because my husband and I have spent the last 17 years trying to get justice and restore our lives after I had $80 million embezzled out of my trust account. And the book explains what we went through to get justice and all the ups and downs of our lives, of how we lived in a tent. It's actually in a series of 6 books. Right now, just one of them is published.
Now, for people to get a copy of your book, how would they go about it, Deborah?
You can buy it on Amazon. Or you can go to my blog, and it is there on the upper left-hand corner, and my blog is Deborah, Deborah, Breuner, BREUNER.blogspot.com.
Now, Deborah, I had the opportunity during the break to quickly scan over your Facebook page, and I noticed that you are an extremely opinionated person, and you are also a very highly critical of the administration. Why are you so critical of the current administration?
Well, I'm actually not critical of just the current administration. I'm critical of our administration, period, whether it be liberal or conservative. And the reason for this is I had $80 million embezzled out of my trust account. I had trustees and attorneys as trustees. I had a Supreme Court justice as my attorney before he became a justice. And all my $80 millions were embezzled. And I have learned over the last 17 years that the government authorities do nothing. They will not investigate the banks that did this, and there are 3 national banks that did this.
Well, let me get a guess. Yeah, would one of them by chance be Chase?
One of them is Chase, but at the time when this happened, it was NBD. So I don't, Chase took it over, yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, when you say embezzle, was it pretty much open knowledge to you that this was going on, or was it definitely?
They were lying to me, and
okay.
This is the other thing that I found very interesting. And of course, this is not publicized.
Well, this is why I want to bring this out. It's
sort of like a sociopath acts. The mainstream media will publicize the foreclosures, which are horrific.
Right.
The illegal foreclosures. But they won't go, and they think the public thinks, oh, good, now all the truth is coming out. But they do this and do not talk about the other things that are going on, such as the embezzlements by the banks. They talk about Madoff doing what he did, the Ponzi scheme. But they don't talk about the banks actually stealing from people, stopping the embezzle their homes behind their backs. They adjust your account statements. That's how it happened to me.
Okay, now I'm going to play devil's advocate here for just a second, so please bear with me and don't get angry what I'm going to ask you. Most banks are going to say, "Well, no, we don't do this. We're open, we're upfront with our clientele." How did you discover that these banks were defrauding you?
I had my documents sent to a particular attorney who I trusted, somebody that's with an MBA, to look over an illegal foreclosure because I was seeking an attorney. And he said, "Well, I don't know about the foreclosure." He said, "But you have been scammed out of $80 million. And he put it in writing. So I started investigating, and when I tried to get my account statements from Payne Weber, they refused to give them to me. And this has gone on, like I said, about 17 years. I started looking trying to get my account statements in 2004.
Right.
And they refused to give them to me. And I've gone through attorneys. I've had a judge supposedly subpoena them.
What was the comments when you approached your broker, the banks, and all that, as to why they would not give you your statements?
They don't tell you why. They just, my broker just, what they do is they just treat you badly. They are abusive, used abusive language. "Oh, shut up, leave me alone. I don't have to do that."
Well, the thing is they do have to, because you are a client, and it is a matter of record. You're asking about your own personal account. Excuse me, but they have to give you this information. There had to be a reason why they're saying, "No, we're not going to do this."
But they don't have to. Who's going to hold them accountable? Some authority would have to, but there are no authorities holding anybody accountable.
Okay.
And here's another case in point. When I started reporting these crimes, that one was the first one, of course. The Attorney General and the DAs and people like that who are supposed to be investigating these crimes just completely ignored me, and then more crimes started happening to me. It was almost like a mafia hit. The banks that did this to me started committing more crimes against me. Like, for instance, they foreclosed on my $3 million home. It had no loan against it.
How can they foreclose on a house that there's nothing on it?
They did. I had a checking and savings account with them.
Okay.
And I also had a small account with a brokerage firm that was owned by this bank, but I had no idea it was owned by the bank. They didn't reveal that information. And when I knew this company that had my money, this was after my divorce was over and I had transferred what assets I had left, and it was before I learned that the $80 million had been embezzled. All
right. Well, forgive me for interrupting here, but a lot of my listeners are going to say, "Well, this is just a disgruntled individual." But during your investigations into similar actions, I mean, everybody's heard about the foreclosures. Everybody's heard about the banks doing bad business that way. But when it comes to small individuals such as yourself, this is something we're not hearing about. In your investigations, how many people, round figure, have you found that this has been happening to as well?
Well, most of the people this happens to, from my perspective, are murdered. And my husband did try to murder me.
Okay, now...
I escaped. Then my family tried to put me in a mental hospital, and I escaped. My family has totally...
So you're basically written off by your family, is what you're trying to say?
They have written me off, and that's because I am exposing something that they did. They're all in on it. $80 million is a lot of money that can certainly be divided amongst many people.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. Now, your book, I wish I had a copy of it. I really do, and I could go into more about it. But I'm trying to get questions off the top of my head. A lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of my people's listeners are going to say, well, this is just the rantings of a individual who, is disgruntled with the banking system, but and you're bound to get that, Deborah.
No, I've lived it for 17 years. I know exactly what people think. I don't really care.
Right.
Know what the truth is, because I've lived it, and people should be listening. They shouldn't have their money in any bank, period, except for what they pay their bills with, and the rest should be in a safe. You're much safer without your money in a bank. This is a financial holocaust that's going on, and I have spoken to some people who have flippantly said to me, oh, I know, that happened to me too.
Right.
Not as much money, but it happened to me too. And people get to the point where they don't talk about it anymore because there is nothing you can do. And I have gotten to that point too. There is nothing legally I can do until I can find an attorney that will do something and help me, but they won't. None of them. They hear Justice Anthony M. Kennedy is involved, and they want nothing to do with it.
Wow.
They won't prosecute. They will. The last attorney I had withheld all my evidence from the court, and I still won.
Okay, now you just mentioned that you did go through court. Okay.
No, I never went to court.
Oh, I misunderstood what you said, because I thought you said when it went to court that it went in your favor because of evidence that wasn't submitted.
He had to go into judges.
Judges' chambers.
Yes, he had to talk to them, and he had to get the judge to order a trial, and the judge refused to because this guy withheld documents. He never got my account statements. How do you handle a case like this without account statements?
Okay. Now,
bottom line.
Now you said right out you've been trying to get an attorney to handle your case, and because in your allegations is that Justice Kennedy, because he's now a Chief Justice, is a justice on the Supreme Court, nobody wants to go up against this. Now, what I'm wondering is, because of the fact that this affects probably not just you, but many across the country, wouldn't agencies like the ACLU or other pro bono agencies be willing to take your case on? And if you have approached them, what have they said?
I have approached a lot of attorneys. I'm sure there's still more. Right now, I'm trying to move to another state so my husband can work. So, I constantly approach attorneys. Most of them won't even look at the documents. They don't want to get involved. I'm just guessing, okay? I don't know for sure.
Right.
Nobody's ever said, I'm not going up against, the Justice Kennedy. This is experience. I'm assuming that this is the reason. Why? Because why won't they look at my documents? In the beginning, when this first happened, before they realized that Kennedy was involved, they took my documents and looked at them. One attorney even took my case on. Then he withheld all the evidence from the courts. I still settled with Key Bank, which was one of the banks that was the bank that took my house that had no loan against it. And then he withdrew and stole my house, the house I was living in.
Okay, so for the last 17 years, we're going back just prior to, we're like, what, 98, 97, 98?
1997,
Okay, now in that period of time, since 1997, you've experienced extreme hardship, and and for that, I can sympathize with you, because I nearly came to the brink of being homeless myself. How have you been able to get through this last 17 years, knowing that this is an ongoing battle?
Well, first of all, we just keep working on it. I've written these books. I've started the blog. I continue to call attorneys. I continue to write the Attorney General. I wrote President Obama finally, after trying everything, he wrote back and said, "Oh, I love hearing about my constituents. Please vote for me next time." And completely ignored what I said to him. That's another trick they play.
Well, you brought up the fact that you've sent letters to the Attorney General. What has Eric Holder's office told you?
The office, I never talked to him. I talked to somebody who directs me to his office. Said,
Okay.
well, and I'm not the only one, by the way. This has happened to somebody else on Facebook. Well, if the state attorney general doesn't do anything, then we're not doing anything either. It means there's nothing there, and hangs up on me.
So they're basically shoving it back to the state in which the incident occurred, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now
There's another person. You asked if there's other people. There's another person where this is happening to right now that's on Facebook.
Okay. Now the question is I'm assuming in the 17 years that you've been fighting this, you're no longer in the initial state where this started. So what are they, when you contact that particular, and I'm not going to get into specifics because I can understand your concern on this, but if memory serves me right, and I'm not a legal expert on this, but if you are outside of the state in which the incident occurred, then you have to hire or have someone, an attorney from within that state, to make the challenge. What are the attorneys in the state in which has originally occurred? What have they been telling you? Why won't they take it on?
Same thing. They do the same thing. They just, they lie to me. They go, oh, the statutes are gone. Some of them will even tell you that. But I know, I've studied the law now, and I know that they aren't. This is fraud upon the court. My original attorney, my divorce attorney, hid the fact that all this money had been embezzled. So then I have another attorney who refuses to get the account statements and steals my home, and the state bar won't do anything. And my case runs from California to Colorado to Idaho and to Michigan. So I've been in all those states, and they didn't handle any. Oh, and I've sent it, the FBI has it too.
Okay, what have they said?
They don't say anything. You send the documents. Paul Bertrand, who's the head of the FBI in L.A., of the economic crime white-collar unit, so to speak, and he had me send him pounds and pounds of documents. I did that 3 years ago. I've never heard from him. He won't respond to my emails. I have his email account.
When you first approached the FBI about this, were they kind of enthusiastic about maybe this is indeed an additional crime we can lay against the banks?
Some of them were quite enthusiastic, actually. This is back in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Bertrand was semi-enthusiastic. He did ask for my documents. He goes, yeah, I'd like to see those. But I'm going on a 4th of July trip, so just send them to me, and when I get back, I'll look at them. That was 3 years ago.
Now, have you tried to make contact with him since that time?
I have, yes.
And what kind of, have you been getting any response from him?
Silence.
Absolute silence.
And obtuse form letters. I've never gotten an obtuse form letter from him. I just silence. But a lot of my letters, you can point your listeners to my Facebook page, starting November 11th, for 20 posts. There is the story and all the letters. A lot of the letters I've received are there.
Now, how would people go about contacting you on Facebook so they can see this?
Okay, just put in Deborah Breuner. That's the best way to do it, and they'll come up with the one where my hair is up. I have two accounts. The one with my hair is up is the one they want.
Okay.
If they go to November 11th for 20 posts, they can read about the whole story.
Now, Deborah, we've got about a minute and a half left here, and I do want to once again. Deborah is an author, and she, as you heard, ladies and gentlemen, her allegations are she has been scammed by the same banks that have foreclosed on many middle-class Americans because of what they classify as a bad investments. But Chase Manhattan, along with other banks, were fined, and nobody really went to jail. Now, once again, Deborah, I do indeed want people to get to know whereabouts they can go ahead and get your book, the title of the book, and how they can go about getting to your website. You want to pass that information by us one more time?
Okay, I'd be happy to. The name of the book is God's on Our Side, Sweetie, but the Devil Has Control. And it's the first book published in a series of 6 that takes the reader through all our experiences, ups and downs, and all the things that happen to us with the banks. And it really is very revealing with what's the truth to what's going on in the banks. And they can find this book either on Amazon, or they can go to my blog, deborahbreuner.blogspot.com. That's DEBORAH, Breuner, BREUNER, .blogspot.com. And they can find it up in the left-hand corner. There's a clip.
Deborah, I thank you for coming on and enlightening us about your situation. Please stay on the line with me a moment yet. Everybody else, what can I tell you? If this is happening to you, exactly what's happening to Deborah, something's got to be done. Something has to be done.
What's happening to other people? It's just not exposed. That's the biggest problem. And I thank you very much for having me on, because many people in the media don't want to expose this. They're too afraid.
Well, put it this way. I'm not afraid of the big guy. Deborah, stay on the line with me for a minute. Everybody else. With that, it is time for me to get out of here. Stay tuned, because coming up here at the bottom of the hour, Ed Till will be with you all the way up until 4 o'clock this afternoon. Until tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., this is Bob Williams. Take care of yourselves.